Hey there, you just tuned in to the NetSuite podcast. I'm your host, Kendall Fisher, and on this episode, we're joined once again by Hanif Ismail, the Vice President of Strategy and Product Management for NetSuite Human Capital Management, in which he oversees the SuitePeople product line. In fact, we're going to dive into some of the SuitePeople updates rolling out within NetSuite's 2020 Release 2, including SuitePeople Performance Management. Ismail explains how this feature will engage employees more, providing a single data model to track goals, progress, and performance. He also discusses how SuitePeople is helping businesses continue to navigate workforce changes amid COVID-19, and how the performance management tool will enable businesses to get more out of their workforce. Tune in for all of this and more, coming up next.
You're listening to the NetSuite podcast, where we discuss what's happening within NetSuite, why we're doing it, and where we're heading in the future. We'll dive into the details about the software and the people at NetSuite who are behind all the moving parts. We'll also feature customer growth stories, discussing the ups and downs of running a company and how one integrated system can help your business continue to scale.
Hi, Hanif. Welcome back to the NetSuite podcast, and thanks so much for joining us again.
Hey, great to be here. Thanks for having me again.
Yes, of course. Now, as I mentioned in the introduction to this podcast, you're the Vice President of Strategy and Product Management for NetSuite Human Capital Management, which includes the SuitePeople product line. We talked all about this on a previous episode with you. For anyone who wants to learn more, go ahead and check that out. I think you actually joined us last October, was it?
Yeah, I think that's right.
Yeah. Now, a lot has changed in the world since then.
You think?
Yeah, right. You've got to be seeing the impact of the current circumstances in your role firsthand. I'm curious, what are some of the challenges or trends, if you will, that you're seeing in the workplace right now?
Yeah, I mean, gosh, so much has changed. The workplace has gone through massive transformation. I think, when I step back and I think about it, probably the situation has put a lot of pressure on HR departments, from managing staff turnover, sustaining company culture to create safe workplaces, and also developing policies that they may have not had in the past. So as an example, people are working a lot more remotely from home kind of thing. So do you cover internet? Do you cover my external monitors? Some companies don't have those policies in place. So they've got to relook at that. It's also like time off. I need some flex work schedules because I got to take care of my kids or this. So there's a lot of policies that they need to take a look at. And then also reopening in a safe environment, if you will. So they're under some tremendous pressure. I would say, the other thing is also companies that this will be interesting. I think companies that were reluctant to support remote workers in the past, they may actually see it differently going forward, given this forced kind of experience now, if you will. I think it's going to open people's eyes. So we may actually see an increase, if you will, in a continued remote workforce as things start to stabilize.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I've been talking with a lot of our customers and a lot of various companies just through everything that's been going on. And I'm hearing the same thing. A lot of organizations that never really thought about it, didn't really agree with it. And now appear to be moving in that direction, understanding, wow, there's, people can get stuff done sometimes even better working from home than
it's true.
Than in the office.
So even from an employee's perspective, I think one of the other challenges from that side is also finding that work-life balance is now a different challenge. You might find an imbalance between sure, you can have a lot of work to do. So that's one aspect of it. But now people have to deal with, because they're at home, they have to deal with their personal life situation. Yeah. So maybe their child is going through online learning, for instance, and they need to spend some time with that, or childcare situations and so forth. So there's a lot of components to this as well. I mean, for me personally, when I left the office and I came home, it was almost like a physical mindset shift. When I left there, and it was a separation of work and home, although a lot of work carries home anyways, like everybody else, but it was still an opportunity to kind of disconnect and decompress. But when you work from home, you never leave the office anymore. The lines
Yeah.
are now blurred, if you see what I mean.
Oh, I 100% understand
Yeah,
that. I feel like I've had to actually block out times in my schedule to say, get up and go for a walk or walk the dog or,
yeah, yeah,
whatever it may, just because I find myself, it's like, because I get up at whatever hour I get up, maybe I'll work out and then I hop online immediately.
right,
Cause it's like, well, what else? I don't have to commute. I don't, so I'm going to hop online. And then all of a sudden it's 7:30, 8 o'clock
right.
at night. And I'm like, Kendall, I gotta sign off. So I've been
Yeah,
finding myself like blocking times in my calendar to say, okay, this is when you're going to do this. This is how you're going to break up your day. And this is when you absolutely need to be done. Working for the day is another weird thing.
yeah,
So I completely get it. And I think that this is, like you said, conversations that all companies are having.
mhm,
And especially right now with just like the wonkiness of hiring and maintaining your workforce. I think that's something that, plays into this. So another thing that I wanted to ask you is how can companies get more out of their current workforce right now?
yeah. No, that's a really good question. I would say one is just with managers is looking at quick short-term reskilling of those managers. A lot of managers haven't worked with remote workforces or learned how to manage them. So giving them some training around that, I think, becomes really important at this stage. Also, what's important at this stage, given the situation, is managing by goals and deliverables becomes really important, especially in this rapidly changing environment. And it's remote also, so you don't have as much physical awareness as you would have in the past, kind of thing. The other I would say is probably communicate, communicate, communicate. I couldn't stress that enough if I didn't already, but it's just over communicate. Keep people informed, keep them engaged. Make sure that they don't feel like they're being left out or forgotten about, right?
Yeah.
Because that can happen very easily when you're working remotely. You know, the other is reprioritize and focus on the initiatives that really are going to give you a return on investment. So we had to do that ourselves. We've gone through that and looked at all of our initiatives and said, based on the current situation, how would we reprioritize these initiatives? And maybe we don't, maybe we pause on these three or something like that in order to
Right.
focus and really drive success. So I'm sure you've done that in your role as well, or is it?
Oh, yep. And continue, honestly, and continue to as things
Yeah,
change. And as, I think when this all first started in March, it was like, all right, well, we're just gonna hold off on this for a little while and we'll come back to it, in a couple months once things seem to normalize again. And then, that changed again. And now it's like, all right, we got to think a little bit more long term in terms of what our marketing department is going to do
yeah,
as things continue to develop
yeah,
and change basically every week.
yeah.
um
I think even in that realm, just encourage employees to take time off to help achieve that work-life balance because that continues to be a challenge. You want to prevent burnout. Just given all the situations like we talked about earlier with kids being at home, potentially distance learning, supporting them on that workload and so forth. It's make sure they detach themselves from work for some time. Encourage them to take vacation.
yeah.
And it might not be forefront of our people's minds because normally you might travel on vacation or go away or drive away or something like that. And, we don't have that convenience that we did in the past as much as we did in the past. But it's really important that people kind of recharge, spend some quality time with their family at home so that they can kind of re-energize themselves and take care
Yeah.
of things that they need to, right?
Yeah, I could not agree with you more. And in fact, I keep asking people throughout the more recent podcasts that we've been recording, especially during this time, like, what advice do you have for business leaders, but also just like people in general right now that are trying to get
Mm.
through this time? And I think almost everyone has said, take some time for yourself, take some
Yeah,
time to really kind of unravel a little bit, let go a little bit, and detach a little bit from everything. I mean, in not just COVID. I mean, there's so much happening in the world right now. It's wild. So
yeah,
I
yeah,
really couldn't agree more with that. So I want to talk about how NetSuite is helping in responding to some of the challenges companies are facing right now, especially within our own HCM solution SuitePeople? How are we helping companies adjust? What are we doing to address some of these challenges? And like you mentioned, remote workforce and putting new processes in place, safer work, when upon reopening, a safer work environment, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, no, fair question. So there's a lot of stuff that's been underway. So I'd say one of the very, very first things that we had to do was immediately response to the pandemic situation was adjusting our US SuitePeople payroll solution to account for the numerous compliance changes that have come down the pike. Everything from CARES Act, Families First Act, and so forth. So we've had to respond to those kinds of not challenges, but those compliance requirements. I would say our compliance effort in terms of development work we do on compliance has probably gone up threefold because of this situation right now. So that was for us, that was job one. Let's make sure our customers are in a position to succeed. So we had to take care of that first. And then I'd say in terms of reopening efforts, NetSuite rapidly actually developed, I would say, 2 apps for our customers in this response. We actually went out to all of our employees in NetSuite and said, hey, we'd like to build out 2 apps that we think are going to be really helpful for our customers given the current situation. Any volunteers? And we had a lot of people literally put up their hands and say, hey, we really want to be part of this. We want to engage. We want to be part of the solution. We want to do kind of our part, which is really, really exciting. So we delivered 2 apps. And one of them was a community exchange app. And what essentially that does is it was designed to bridge the gap between those who had supplies like personal protective equipment, or we call it PPE, and then those that needed those supplies on the other side, which could have been hospitals or whatever else. But it was to help connect them together. The other application that we had developed, or the other app that we developed, was Workforce Interaction app. And what that does is it helps NetSuite customers create, track, and kind of record all the in-person transactions that a self-reported employee will let you know that, hey, I believe I have COVID-19, I've been infected, or I suspect I do. Well, then you want to start tracking certain information about them that they voluntarily give you. This way, you can get the appropriate communications out quickly to potential people at risk. The app, interestingly enough, also leverages a vast amount of data that we have from that particular customer, so that we're able to introspect all of that data and look at what other personal interactions could that potential person have had. So as an example, we look at their employee's location, their reporting structure, who they report to, the project, were they on a project, and who were members of that project, and so forth. And through that process, we're able to provide them a potential list of people that they may want to inform.
Yeah, I mean, I think you and I worked on a couple of those apps,
That's
at least
right.
some demos for them, which are also available for anybody who wants to learn more. We have a couple demos about them. Actually, Lisa Schwartz talked a little bit about the community exchange app when we discussed some of the ways that NetSuite has responded amid COVID-19 during our 2020 release 2 overview. And again, for our customers who are or our listeners who are tuning in right now, if you want to check out that overview, that is also released. That was released just about a month ago. So go ahead and check that out. And in that, she actually mentioned SuitePeople Performance Management.
Hey, nice.
Which is, as I introduced on this podcast, is exactly what we want to be talking about today. So what can you tell us? What is SuitePeople Performance Management?
Can I just go back for 1 second? I just thought of something else, because you had mentioned, remote workforce and what do we do for that? So there's a couple of things just on that. One, we're a cloud-based solution, right? NetSuite is. So if somebody can run, like a payroll administrator can actually run payroll from their house, in order to maintain business continuity. The other aspect of this is it's more critical now, especially in a remote situation, to know who's who in the organization, because you don't have that physical presence as much. So we also gave away, as part of any NetSuite customer gets our directory search and org browser all NetSuite customers get that regardless of whether you have a SuitePeople license or not. So now it can be used to find an individual. You might not know their name. You can look them up by their title, or you can look them up by department. So it gives you a lot more flexibility, and it's a tool that we believe would be really valuable, especially in remote situations.
Oh, got it. Yeah, I'm glad you touched on that because that obviously is a huge part of this conversation.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
back to your point, performance management. Yes, we're very excited. We are very excited to release our new performance management application. It's a new add-on module, as I think you said, Lisa suggested. It's a new add-on module to SuitePeople HR. It's included in our 20.2 release, and it'll be customer in hands, I think, about the October timeframe.
Got it. So can you tell us a little more about this? How did this come about? Why are we releasing it now in 2020 release 2?
Yeah, absolutely. So performance management, just to give people context, it's a collaborative process to help employees align with managers on their goals. Essentially, what do you plan to accomplish in a certain period of time? It could be a quarter, 6 months, or an annual thing. It's a way for managers to also know all of the things that their people are working on and that they're moving towards a common vision, if you will. There's also recognition components to it as well, where one person can recognize another for a job well done. And then finally, there's a highly configurable formal process, performance review process, where all the goals that you fill out and so forth and you provide status to, they all directly feed into the performance review process. So it makes it much easier. This, to your point, also, this came about really through customers' demand. We had performance management always in our plans to build, but we accelerated the plans because we saw a significant amount of customer demand. I had a lot of customers knocking on my, let's just say, virtual door, I guess. Especially in this market that we deal with, in the small to medium-sized business market, you don't have the room for people not to be effective. Smaller companies have much less financial latitude, right, than a larger company does. So pretty much every head needs to be effective. Right. And then based on all this market research that we had done, we looked at that, and we believe it really allowed us to really reinvent performance management and bring something really unique to the market that addresses some of the biggest challenges with performance management today.
There's enough uncertainty to go around right now. NetSuite reduces it by giving you visibility and control. With so many critical decisions to make, you need the right numbers, and you need them right now. NetSuite by Oracle is the world's #1 cloud business system. With NetSuite, we give you financials, cash flow, payroll, inventory, and more, all in one place, so you have clear visibility and total control of your business. NetSuite customers have the flexibility to work from anywhere, with immediate clarity on critical information right at their fingertips. No more guessing, no more waiting. Make smarter decisions with confidence because you've got crystal clear visibility into your numbers. Join over 20,000 companies who trust NetSuite to stay in control.
Receive your free guide, Managing Business Uncertainty, and schedule your free product tour right now at netsuite.com/USA. Don't wait. Get your free guide, Managing Business Uncertainty, and schedule your free product tour at netsuite.com/USA. netsuite.com/USA.
Interesting that you say every head needs to be effective. I mean, because that's exactly what we were just talking about earlier, right? Getting more out of your workforce during such a wonky time of hiring. This is so necessary. Now, what do you see as, coming back to those challenges you mentioned, what do you see as the biggest challenges when it comes to performance management, not just now, but always?
The first thing that comes to mind is probably engagement. That tends to be a significant issue. I mean, just think about it, Kendall, in your case. When's the last time you updated your performance goal? Most of the people, typically, maybe once a year, if you're lucky. People generally tend to do it because they're mandated, as opposed to really finding value in doing it. There's also this other notion that it's disconnected from the work that you do on a day-to-day basis, in the sense of, if you're a sales rep, as an example, and you do your work in a CRM application, right? You create your opportunities, or you follow up with your leads, you create your opportunities, and then you work to close them. But your performance management application is usually not aware of how well you did or how well you didn't do. That context isn't passed over to your performance management application. So that sales rep now has to re-enter this information manually into the performance management application, and it's redundant work. It takes a significant amount of work to keep it updated, and at some point in time, you stop keeping it updated because it's manual and the information becomes stale.
Yeah, and then when you're doing that only once a year or whatever it may be, it's way worse. It takes even more time.
That's exactly it. You hit it on the head. Because then
I
you
know
got to
it
think
too
back.
well. Yeah, exactly. Well, like for me, I produce videos and podcasts. And
Right.
so to go back and look at all of my various areas where I house, okay, this is the amount of product videos we've released. This is the amount of customer videos we've released. It's really hard to compile that and then get it into, the performance management tool, whatever it may be. So.
Yep. That's exactly it. I mean, I tend to go when I go through it. I hate to admit it, but hopefully my boss is not listening. But I go through my emails, I go through my calendars, I go through all of that over the course of the year, and I try to find out, okay, what the heck did I actually do? And then, okay, how did that project go? And then imagine also from the manager's point of view, something may have happened 6 months ago or 8 months ago, and they've got, an army of people that they manage, or quite a few people that they manage now. Okay, so how did Hanif actually do on that project 6 months ago? It's kind of a little too late at that point in time. And then you don't get accurate information.
So then what does it take to overcome these kinds of challenges?
I would say probably two things. One is, I think software vendors from that perspective, we fundamentally need to change our performance management tools so they get smarter and that they connect to exactly what we're talking about. It connects to an employee's daily work as you're automating, collecting that data on how that employee is performing to the degree possible, obviously. We need to make it much easier and less onerous and fit into a manager's and employee's daily habits. Also, employees and managers need to truly get value from that solution as well. So that would be more from a software vendor's perspective, that these tools need to evolve. And then there's also a change management challenge as well. And there's a mindset shift that needs to occur actually with organizations and managers. Done right, performance management can significantly help improve an organization's effectiveness. The analogy that I always think about is just think about a rowing crew, I guess it's called, right? And they're synchronized in perfect rhythm. You get much further than you would otherwise. But it also helps drive a culture of performance and higher productivity.
I'm like, my wheels are spinning. I'm like, yes, like we're actually in the middle of doing performance reviews right now. So I'm like, oh yeah, this would be great. So that actually brings me then to, what is SuitePeople Performance Managing doing to address these challenges?
I would say, one is, I really didn't want to, when we decided to move down this path and we said, okay, we're going to build out a new performance management solution. I really didn't want to introduce something to the marketplace that was just another product, another performance management solution in the marketplace. I really want to tackle some of the challenges that we're talking about head on. And we really believe that we've reinvented performance management.
Not to be rude.
No.
But isn't this what most vendors would say? Like, how is SuitePeople Performance Management different then?
Yeah, probably true. Good point. Well, in that case, let's expand.
Yes, please do.
Well, we've actually done something. Yeah, most vendors will probably say that, but we've actually done something very truly innovative that no other vendor has done to the best of our knowledge. Mm-hmm. We're leveraging the power of our unified suite. As you know, and most of our customers know, we have one single data model that's shared across ERP, commerce, SuitePeople, all of the different dimensions that we offer or solutions we offer. We share that same data model, which actually gives us some significant advantages. Because of this, we're able to, we were talking about directly connecting to the employee's goals. We're actually able to do that and directly connect to those goals and look at the actual work that person has done. Because a lot of the work that employees do is already recorded in NetSuite. So just say you're a sales rep you use CRM.
Mm-hmm.
And if you use our CRM, we know, what deals you closed, what deals you lost, what deals you won. We have all of that information. We can tap into that and leverage that and bring that context into performance management. Even if you're consulting, as an example, another one would be consulting services project manager. And you're using our PSA or a project solution, same kind of thing. We know what projects you've closed. We know how long it took. We know some of the metrics around it. We can pull all of that from that module into the performance management application. So what we did was we surfaced real-time metrics from across the suite and then allowed them to be attached to an individual's goals, to their performance goals. So in that example of, let's say you're that project manager in a consulting services firm, and you're using our NetSuite professional services automation solution, and let's say you're measured on projects completed on time. That metric could then be attached to your goal, and the suite would automatically maintain that for you. Similarly, in that sales rep example, using NetSuite CRM, one of the goals that typically they have is obviously attaining their quota targets, but another one could be hey, I need you to improve your win rate percentages. So we can track that as well. And then these metrics are maintained by the suite. The employee doesn't have to collect these metrics or update their goals with respect to the metrics. The employee and the manager always know where the employee stands versus their goals, which really has an interesting outcome, because the manager and the employee, because they always know where the individual stands with their goals, in their regular conversations and touch points, one-on-ones and so forth that they have, those conversations become much more meaningful, and it switches to a coaching context as opposed to status collection, because the conversation with the rep could be hey, I noticed your win rate's still at 25%, as opposed to our goal of 40%. Tell me about the last deal you lost, and let's talk about how we improve that. The conversation changes. That's the critical thing.
Well, and it's an ongoing conversation. It's not just once every 6 months or whatever it may be. It's a constant conversation, which I think is excellent.
Yes, absolutely.
Now, can customers create their own metrics?
Yeah.
And why would that be important if that's the case?
Yeah. Well, one is, so we have metrics out of the box, and then customers can create their own custom metrics using our standard safe search capabilities, which is a tool that most of our customers already know how to use. So we essentially ultimately give the customers a choice. We give you these out of the box metrics as is, and you can leverage that, or you can customize existing industry baseline metrics that NetSuite provides, and you can leverage that as a baseline and then build from there. Or you can build out your own from scratch. And a lot of customers will customize their solution. This way they can also create their own custom metrics as they'd like to. So there's a lot of flexibility there.
Yeah, that's great. Anything else that you want to note about how SuitePeople Performance Management stands out from, the rest? Gives us that more competitive factor, if you will?
Yeah, always. I guess one of the other things that I would mention is, we've also built a drag and drop interface to move goals from one status to another. So imagine you have a page in front of you, a screen in front of you, and it's about your goals, and it says there's 3 columns. One that says what's planned, what goals are in progress, and then what goals are closed. And what you can use is this drag and drop interface to move these, I call them cards, to move these goal cards from one bucket to another as you accomplish them. In our testing with our customers, the feedback we received was that it was very intuitive. And for me, the biggest thing was that it felt natural. I mean, and the reason it felt natural, just think about it. A lot of people will have, a to-do list. Lord knows I have mine, which is on my whiteboard behind me. So I have my to-do list. And as normal, people will go through it. You finish one thing, you'll cross it off. You'll finish the next thing, you'll cross it off. You'll prioritize them maybe. And I go through A, B's, and C's priorities on my whiteboard. So you kind of go through that. And we're kind of mimicking the same behavior, so it feels natural. And that's what our test results showed with our customers, that, it felt very natural. So they would engage with that fairly effectively.
Well, and it feels good. I mean, they're literally, for me, I work off a to-do list like crazy. My boss, Fritz, always makes so much fun of me because he's like, you are crazy about checking off that to-do list, but it feels good to do. So to be able to do that, like you said, in this tool, it's engaging. It feels good to move it from one box to the next and complete it.
Yeah, it gives you a sense of accomplishment at the same time, right? To your point. Yeah. So we
And to be able to visualize it, right?
Exactly. And because you visualize it, to your point, that way, and it's drag and drop, it's simple, it's how it mimics existing behaviors and stuff, it's much easier to maintain and engage with, which helps with that engagement issue as well. And then, we've also, to our other discussion, we've also added capabilities so that when you're in the process of closing that goal, you're able to kind of reflect. So you go through the process of closing it. When you move it from one bucket to the another and you're closing it, you then are prompted with, okay, let's do a reflection of that goal right there and then, as opposed to at the end of the year. So we call it reflection, which is kind of a self-review. How did I do with respect to this particular goal? And you can put that in. It then goes to your manager, and your manager can also go in and put his or her reflection with respect to that goal right there and then as well, so that it doesn't come towards the end of the year or something like that, and now you got to go back to your earlier point and think about, crap, what did I do 8 months ago, or so forth. So you start building this over time, and then all of these goals feed directly into the performance review process, or the performance review form. So at the end of the day, a lot of your work is already done.
I really think
I think it's really good because it reduces the workload and that daunting feeling, if you will, about the performance management cycle. And that's kind of what we're trying to shift. I really think HR leaders are going to love this because it's driving engagement. The goals are more meaningful because they're tied to now metrics and they're maintained. And the process becomes a lot more efficient. And then on the finance side, financial leaders are going to love this, I think, because they're also going to say, this is improving productivity, and it gives me the agility, or the finance leader, the agility to shift employee priorities based on changing business conditions. So it allows them to redirect the ship, if you will, fairly effectively.
Yeah, that's all really, really great stuff. Love hearing about this. What's next for SuitePeople Performance Management?
I'd love to say a beach vacation, but that's not on the books right now. There's a couple of things that are in process. One is we're building out manager dashboards, and the intention of that is to give more visibility and progress to various aspects of the performance management cycle. So that's one. The other is we're automatically going to look at pulling in kudos, recognition, feedback, one-on-one's context, one-on-one's information directly into the performance review process. So again, giving that performance review process, whether it's the manager and the employee, the visibility to anything that influences your performance right there and there in context. So you don't have to go to your emails or calendars or anything else for that context. We're trying to bring it all into one place so you can get through the performance process effectively. And then the last thing that we're working on right now with respect to performance management is also that theme of connecting to people's work directly. So I'm really gung-ho about that because I think that's the future. And that's what we're hearing from our customers as well. They love what we've been talking about and showing them. In that context, we're now looking across the suite and saying, what are the different events that occur across the suite, whether it's in CRM, it's PSA, or commerce, looking at those events and saying, where can we automatically pull or even trigger feedback on employees' performance, and then automatically surface that back into the performance review process. So there's some pretty cool stuff that's coming along. So just stay tuned.
Yeah, I'd say, well, I'm excited. We'll for sure have you back on in the future.
Would love
to. But before we wrap up here, how can our listeners learn more about SuitePeople? I know I mentioned our previous podcast episode, but anywhere else they can go that I can leave a link in the description of this episode for?
Yeah, there would be a couple of things. One is you can go to the SuitePeople page on netsuite.com. There's videos there that provide in-depth product demonstrations, data sheets, that are associated to our offerings. There's also the NetSuite YouTube channel. They can find customer video cases there as well. You mentioned the podcast, so that's certainly another aspect that'll give them an overview of our SuitePeople offering. And then finally, they should be reaching out to their account managers who will be more than happy to help.
Great. Hanif, as always, thanks for joining us. This was awesome. I'm super excited about everything we've got going on the SuitePeople side, especially with all this performance management stuff, and look forward to having you back on in the future.
I look forward to that. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much to Hanif Ismail for joining us on this episode of the NetSuite podcast, giving us some insight into the exciting updates around NetSuite SuitePeople. I also want to shout out to our editing crew over at Lampstand and all of you for tuning in. Don't forget to follow us, subscribe, rate, and review. Chat with you next time.
You just listened to the NetSuite podcast. Be sure to tune in every week with more NetSuite developments, stories, and insights into the benefits of one integrated system to help you run your business.